Where do we find a self? It would be quite foolish, nonetheless, if we were to lose hope and optimism in the face of unavoidable suffering. The purpose of observing and reflecting on all-pervasive suffering is that we have the potential to be freed from it. It is for this reason that the Buddha, through his teaching on the truth of suffering, guides us to see suffering as being the very nature of samsara. The more insights we gain into it, the more inspired we will be to explore its root causes and antidotes. Suffering and happiness do not come without their causes. The Buddha says that the cause of all suffering originates from our deep-rooted misperception of both self and the world. Perceiving the illusory as real, we fail to see the universal truth that all phenomena come and go depending on necessary internal and external causes and conditions. They are not inherently substantial and permanent. In Buddhism, we call such characteristics selflessness and impermanence. Impermanence was not something invented by the Buddha. Rather, the Buddha stated an obvious truth to which most of us remain oblivious. Flowers bloom and wilt. Seasons alternate. The moon waxes and wanes. Joy and sorrow take turns. Time flows constantly with each passing moment, and nothing stays forever. Such is impermanence, the rhythm of our universe. Despite its omnipresence, we do not take notice of impermanence until unexpected or even drastic changes occur. Consequently, we misperceive impermanence as the maker of life's misery, not knowing that our own fear of change is the real culprit. To overcome such fear, we can either become familiar with impermanence or gain insight into the cause of the fear. Most of us know that the more we shun the things we fear, the more fearful we become of them. Our relationship with impermanence is quite similar. If we turn around and look straight at impermanence, we may find it is not as scary as imagined. Without impermanence, for instance, night would always prevail. Those separated would never reunite. An unhealthy body would remain sick, and the depressed would never rejoice. Wouldn't it be dreadful if our world were like this? Observing changes in our lives and our environment can cultivate our insight into impermanence and enable us to accept it. We will no longer be obsessed with getting rid of wrinkles, be overly self-conscious about our saggy stomachs, feel heartbroken after parting ways with someone, or be frustrated by failures. We will begin to approach life's unexpected turns more wisely and practically. If we get old, suffer sickness, encounter setbacks, or feel insecure, we know that we are not alone. Changes pervade every aspect of life and affect every single person. Every one of us has ups and downs, and we gain things and lose things from time to time. It's a reality that is both universal and natural. Insight into impermanence not only makes us more open-minded, but also more appreciative of our lives, allowing us to see the value of spiritual practice. Quite often, people like to talk about how short this life is, but deep down, they think that they will always have enough time to do what they plan to do. Consequently, even big changes in their lives like severe illness or the death of relatives, are unlikely to alter their habitual blindness to impermanence, let alone the misfortunes of others. Those who gather for a party might carry on despite hearing the news of an earthquake. Those who have suffered from health problems will rarely see, after recovery, the senselessness of chasing fame and wealth within their limited lifespans. Compared to fame and wealth, inner peace, contentment, loving-kindness, and compassion are more beneficial to their lives and more easily make them happy. People easily become sad and desperate when misfortunes befall them. Yet they are forgetful and eventually return to their old ways, failing to learn the lessons from their suffering. I'm not saying that it is wrong to be optimistic, but while being optimistic, we should also see the fragile and fleeting nature of life. Aging and death come closer every day. The time we can use to cultivate virtue and wisdom is limited. Yet we spend our lives on trivialities, clinging to things that do not last. Sometimes we even act immorally to achieve our desires. When life comes to its end, nothing helps but the Dharma. At death, we cannot take a single coin with us, even if we are wealthy, or a single servant, even if our power matches that of a king. Instead, we must leave everything behind, including our cherished body. On the other hand, no one and nothing can harm us but our own negative actions done in the past, even if the whole world is our enemy. Further, impermanence is not to our liking because of the intimidating message it entails. All things, including ourselves, are selfless in nature, lacking intrinsic existence, concreteness, and permanence. They are only the products of causes and conditions. The physical and non-physical elements necessary for various phenomena to emerge. For a phenomenon to arise, certain causes and conditions must come together. Otherwise, there will be no phenomenon. For the same reason, if these causes and conditions change, the phenomenon changes accordingly. If they cease, the phenomenon ceases as well. This view is called dependent arising in Buddhism. Since all phenomena originate dependently, they do not exist permanently, and there is no inherent and completely independent self in them. This gives rise to selflessness, another Buddhist concept. Like impermanence, selflessness is a mere reflection of universal reality and is neither good nor bad. It may not be particularly appealing when we first hear of it, for it can shatter our illusion of security and make us feel disheartened. We have believed for a long time that things exist in a truly independent way, and this mode of existence is what makes life meaningful and happy. Consequently, we are more inclined to resist the idea of selflessness being the essence of all things, including ourselves. It is indeed not easy to comprehend selflessness, let alone to experience and realize it. Everything around us, including ourselves, appear existent like solid rocks. We all have individual bodies and thoughts. I am not you, and you are not me. We can see and touch those tables and walls and water. How can they be selfless? The concept of selflessness has been elaborated on by two great Buddhist masters, Nagarjuna in his Fundamental Verses of the Middle Way, and Shantideva in his On Wisdom, the last chapter of the Way of the Bodhisattva. I will only provide a brief introduction here by using examples from our daily experiences. Based on analysis alone, we can easily demonstrate that the idea of intrinsic existence is both illusory and misleading. For example, we use the concepts of I and myself as reference points to communicate with others, but the truth is that we are unable to identify a concrete and substantial self. If the physical body is this self, does losing weight mean this self is diminished and I am no longer I? And if so, where is the other part of the self supposed to go? Nobody would think like this. After losing weight, we do not doubt our individual identity, and we will even believe that our self has improved. If we perceive ourselves as the same person regardless of changes in our physical shape, this self must be changeable. A changeable thing will not last, and it transforms constantly with external and internal changes. This leaves no room for an intrinsic and concrete I. Thus the perception of the physical body as a stable I is only a delusion. Likewise, none of the various parts of the body is an I. If blood or body fluids count as the I, am I not getting smaller every time I sweat or cry? Do I become another person after I receive a blood transfusion from somebody else? The fact that the same blood can run in both my veins and in the veins of another proves that blood itself is by no means an independent I. The same analysis can be applied to all the four elements of earth, water, fire, and air that constitute the physical body. And we will arrive at the same conclusion that none of these can ground a self-subsistent I. There are other ways to reach the conclusion as well. Just look at our photos as a toddler. Is that giggling, toothless child held in the arms of an adult really me? If so, where has that I gone? And who is the person looking at the photo at this very moment? Our human body, formed by physical aggregates that undergo gradual but constant changes, may last years, decades, or even 100 years. By way of contrast, our thoughts, emotions, and feelings constituting consciousness that arise and disperse instantly are much less enduring. If the relatively stable physical body is not I, it is even less likely for this consciousness to be one. When we speak of selflessness, it is important to note that we do not mean nihilism. Life is the interplay of incessant and interwoven changes. Neither the same nor different, neither inconsistent nor abiding, the present I and the previous I are connected through interrelated causes and effects. A previous physical or mental activity influences and produces the current one that, dependently originated, produces in turn the next one. This causal chain of dependent arising is what drives the infinite but ever-changing flow of life. Death is nothing more than one of life's most profound changes, and it will not stop the coming and going of causes and effects. Not only I, but also all the things around us are examples of selflessness. Scientific progress makes it easier to comprehend. We now know that every material substance that can be seen, touched, and felt is made of atoms, which are held together by chemical bonds to form molecules. Every atom is composed of protons, neutrons, and electrons. These small particles bond together in various manners and move constantly at a high speed, and we mistake the trajectories of their movements for objects that exist truly. In a dark night, a burning incense stick can create a light trace if we wave it fast enough. The light trace, after all, is no more than an optical illusion created by the burning stick at various spots. Unfortunately, the same kind of illusion also fools us when phenomena appear. A human body, if examined under a microscope, will also appear differently. The concrete physical appearance that we usually behold will be replaced with water, gases, minerals, and other substances, which can be reduced further to molecules, atoms, and even smaller particles if we keep raising the magnification of the instrument. Works by the Middle Way school of Buddhist philosophy, founded by Nagarjuna, have explained that all phenomena perceived as inherently existent are void-like space, though some other schools of Buddhism hold different views. Scientific studies have shown that an inherent and abiding self does not exist. Even if a material substance can ultimately be reduced to the smallest possible particles, rather than being void, this kind of particle can still not constitute an intrinsically existent self. Otherwise, there would be numerous selves in every human body, and at the same time in the air, water, and soil. This brings us back to the starting point. Which one is it if there is an intrinsically existent self?